Hello, my name is Reverend Heron, and I'll be coming with a short message, and hopefully you'll be encouraged. My text is coming out of Ephesians, the 6th chapter, verses 10 through 20, and the title of my text is Whole Armor of God. And I remember when I was in the military, I had to go through what is called 8 weeks of basic training because I had to be properly trained on the battlefield to fight the enemy. Well, that's the same with the spiritual warfare, is you have to be properly trained. And so in verse 11, Paul says, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to withstand against the wiles of the devil. Now, the word wiles in this scripture means plots or schemes. And Satan, ever since that you were born, has always had a scheme or a plot for you. However, the good news is that God has always had your escape route ready for you if you're obedient and willing to follow him. And then in verse 12, Paul tells us what we're going up against. He kind of acts like he's a MI, or in the military what we call a military intelligence. He's telling you what you're going up against. He's telling you that our weapons are not carnal and that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. So you cannot go to the nearest gun store and ask for a gun to shoot the devil. That's not going to work. Or you cannot go to the Pentagon and ask for the codes of weapons of mass destruction and think you're going to blow him up. That's not going to work either. And then in verse 13, Paul says, therefore put on every piece of God's armor so you will be able to resist the enemy in the time of evil. Now there are two parts to this scripture that I really want you to see. The first part is Paul said every piece. See, you cannot have on half or partial. And the second part of it is that to resist the devil, you got to have on the whole armor, or you will not be able to resist him. Yeah, see, y'all not following me this morning because, listen, this is not one of those messages that is telling you how if you sow a seed, you'll get a new car. If you sow a seed, you'll get a new house. Or if you sow a seed, that when you get home, there'll be a check in the mailbox. That's not one of these messages. No, this is about spiritual warfare because nowadays, we are living in the last days, and there's too much of prosperity messages. There's nothing wrong with prosperity. However, when you put emphasis on being about monetary values, that's where the prosperity kind of diminishes. And like I said, this is the last days. Brothers and sisters out there in the world are suffering and hurting. They don't really need to hear about prosperity. They need to hear about how they can combat the enemy. And the only way you can do that is if you have the whole armor of God on. Well, how do you do that? You have to get in the Word and read about the armor so that you can put it on. And then there are many reasons why we don't put on the whole armor of God. Some examples are friends, family, money, the environment. And let me just tell you, society has made it almost difficult for young people, especially young people, to put on the whole armor of God because they say if you're not sinning, then you're not you're missing out, or if you're not partying, you're not sowing up your wild oats. And the church is just as responsible as the world is, because the church today has turned a blind eye to sin because we feel like we can benefit out of something or someone. Like, it's okay that Pastor so-and-so has 2 and 3 kids out of wedlock as long as he keeps preaching the gospel. Or it's okay that the choir director is gay and walks with a switch as long as he keeps bringing good music. Or it's okay that the dope man keeps selling dope in front of the church as long as he keeps bringing a healthy donation. And this is where the church has gone wrong. We have started little by little peeling off our armor of God. And, we'll make up excuses. Well, we'll be all right. God knows his heart. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. But that's not what God intended. And then, so how do we fix this? Well, one of the ways that we fix this is by cutting out the cancer. Now, if you ever heard the term, like in sports, they'll say this guy or girl on the team is a cancer, meaning that they are a problem and that eventually they're going to have to be removed because the team cannot exist with that person disrupting. Now, just as a doctor, he or she will cut out a part of a person's body that has cancer, They'll cut off the part that is infected so that the body as a whole can still exist and live. Now, when I say cut out the cancer, I don't mean cut that person off completely. However, there are going to be times where you're going to have to cut a social circle or events or friends, family, because they're not going to be on the same level that you are. And especially if you're in the ministry or something that God has for you to do, you're going to have to kind of push that person or thing aside unless God tells you otherwise, meaning like if he has something for you to do, or if that person needs help, because see, you got to love your brother and sister, you got to help them. However, shooting the breeze with them, hanging out, that may not be such a good idea, because where you're trying to go, they're not trying to go. And so you'll have to cut that out. Hopefully that this was inspiring to you, and that encouraging, and remembering that you have to keep on the whole armor of God, because that's the only way that you will be able to resist the devil. But see, like I said, y'all not rolling with me, because see, this is spiritual warfare, and that's the only way that you will be able to battle Satan, is having the whole armor. You can't have on the breastplate of righteousness and be missing the shield of faith. Or you can't have on the breastplate of righteousness and be missing the belt of truth. And when you try to coexist with the world and have on the armor of God, it's not going to mesh well. Because Jesus said in the scripture, can salt water and spring water run out the same tap? No, it can't. It's impossible. You're going to have to do one or the other. And if you find yourself peeling off some of the armor of God, then you better find out what is causing you to do that and get away from it. I hope that this word was inspiring, and I hope to see you soon.